Okay, welcome to week 6 of Humanity in the 21st Century. Now we're sort of moving on a little bit from evolutionary ways of thinking about humans, what is our natural genetic makeup, what drives us, and we thought a fair bit about the biology. And last week we introduced a little bit more about the culture of humans, because the culture is incredibly intrinsic to what it means to be human. The culture defines our beliefs, our behaviours and our attitudes. But now we want to turn that around a little bit and take it to the next step, where it's a little bit more practical, if you like, a little bit more related to you yourselves. And that means we've got, if you like, a new topic: needs, wants and desires. Have you ever thought this way before? Is that you? Needs, what do you need in life? What would you want in life? And what do you desire? And the way people have defined it gets very complicated. I define it very easily. A need is something like food or shelter. If you haven't got it, you're going to die. Or if you can't find a member of the opposite sex, you'll never be able to reproduce. If your need is to reproduce, you must have that person of the opposite sex, even if you don't like them. You know, it's a need. The whole species must go on with that need. A want is, okay, I've got a bit of food, and I'm not going to die, but I want a bit more because I sort of like it. I'd like to have a bit of food on the table, then if I run out, I've got some more food. Or I want a bit of variety. And that's a want. It's not absolutely crucial to my existence, but I certainly like it. A desire is where we go a stage further. A desire, if you like, is a lust. I want fish and chips, and I want, what do you want? Think of a food you shouldn't have. Hungry Jacks, that'll do. Some sort of food, and you want it more and more. Cream buns, you want it more and more. You can't stop. You're starting to get obese, you just can't stop. It's a need, a want, that's gone to the point of being almost pathological. I want to feel secure, and therefore I earn a few dollars and I put them in a bank. But I get to like that, and suddenly I find that my entire life is devoted to trying to make money at the expense of other parts of my life. That then is a desire which is not so good. Now, today we want you to be thinking along these lines and identifying needs, wants and desires in your own lives. And I'll be asking you later on, but just before we start, come on, I'm going to pick on you. Can you think of a desire, not too embarrassing, that you're prepared to confess to?
A desire?
Yeah.
Oh. No, I want to be a doctor one day, I guess.
Okay. Not sure whether that's a need or a want. Probably a want, because it's not going to kill you. You know, it might even be a good thing. But what about, do you want to drive a Porsche, or is that why you want to become a doctor?
Oh.
Okay, if you wanted a Porsche and you're prepared to be a doctor to get the Porsche, I would define the Porsche as a desire. Okay, so they overlap. And you might say, does it matter? And in a way, in an incredibly affluent society, probably not much. However, in terms of humanity, the things we desire are generally surplus to needs, way surplus, and it means that in our consumption of those things, those desires, of denying other people. There's not enough to go around. And you could even say that our entire Australian culture is based on desire, or a fair bit of it. We want and we want and we want. Our standard of living has got to keep on going up. Unless our gross domestic product goes up by 3%, oh dear, we'll chuck out the government. We've got to grow. Do we? Or is that a desire? And in so doing, are we digging up more minerals? Are we putting up more CO2, etc., etc.? Have we said enough? So just as you can think of needs, wants and desires in terms of you, the individual, you can think of needs, wants and desires on the impact on Mother Earth or Father Earth, whichever. Yep? So it's a pretty important sort of a subject to really move around. Now, a lot of people have tried to define it, and it's related obviously to human well-being. And I've given you 3 or 4 resources to think about, and I've told you that before you even look at resources, think about yourselves as individuals. The best way to think about integrated human studies is start with yourself and try and understand yourself. What is it there? Second way is to think, particularly those of you who have done human biology or genetics, think in terms of evolutionary, what makes sense. What sort of needs and wants and desires do you think our genes are pushing us for our survival? So we're going to be Darwinian fitness. What sort of things are going to drive us? Then you can ask another question of yourselves. How does a desire or a need or a want get driven? You weren't born with the desire to become a medico, I'm pretty sure. You possibly weren't born with the desire to get a Porsche, I'm pretty sure. So where do they come from, these needs and wants and desires? They come from our culture. They come from all sorts of different things. And what really drives us... Have you ever sort of got an itchy bite or been stung by a little ant and you want to scratch? Have you? Yeah. If you like, you're driven to relieve that itch. And if you like, needs, wants and desires are the same thing. What's driving them is that if we don't have that thing we want, we feel pain. If we do have the thing we want, we feel happiness, a release, a relief. Maybe, not always, but a relief. So, various people have tried to set up needs, wants and desires in various structures. And I've given you this very old one by a bloke called Maslow. Quite good, but more of a historical reading. I don't particularly like it, although he's very influential. And he describes needs, wants and desires at the very base level of survival. You've got to have food, you've got to have sex, you've got to reproduce, you've got to have shelter. A little bit higher up, he's got a thing sort of security. You don't want to get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, so you've got that feeling you want to get a certain safety net. A little bit higher, he asks the question whether one of your needs is social relationship. And it probably is. In fact, I'm sure it is. This is sort of like a higher level. He goes a higher level again and says, look, one of your real needs is self-esteem. I want to love myself. I want to think I'm okay. That's, if you like, a need. But if you feel you're a bit of a rat bag, you have a pretty bad sort of a life. You don't like yourself. At the worst situation, you might even commit suicide. So self-esteem, if you like, is a need, a want, or a desire. I wish I liked myself more. And then finally, he's got self-actualization, where his argument is that you're not going to be very happy unless you've got a certain IQ. Maybe it's a pretty good one, I don't know. I can find out, I can check the records, but you've got something there. And look, I'm physically fit, my golly, I'm fit. I'm very, very strong. Therefore, I self-actualize if I'm using my talents, my abilities, my nature. And it's only when I'm maximizing my potential that I feel good about myself. All right? Now, not a problem. I don't agree with that. It looks like the computer doesn't either. But that's one way of thinking. Then I gave you another resource which talked about other things like love, relationships, sense of place. And I once asked a bunch of my human biology students, can you name to me, please, 9 things that you believe make you happy? What would happen if I tried that on you now? Money? Love? Relationships? And all of a sudden you start to think about what is actually driving you. And one of the things I was keen on, and they picked up, a sense of place. I feel very happy if I'm in a locality that I know well. My land, my property, my geographical place. And a lot of indigenous cultures, of course, have that very, very powerfully, a sense of place and a sense of time that I feel most relaxed in. So that, if you like, is a need. And you might say, well, that's not a particularly important need. Well, I can tell you it is. I'm pretty ancient. Another 10 years, my kids are going to lock me up in an old people's home, probably. And they're going to take me out of my house and put me into something so much better, Dad. They'll look after you there. You'll be able to play Monopoly and you'll be able to have all these other old people talking to you. You'll feel relaxed. You won't have those parties next door. Well, I actually like the parties next door. And I don't like playing Monopoly. And you'll find a lot of old people taken out of their cave and put in something much, much nicer, done like, have I made the point? So once you start getting into this game, you'll find there's a lot more to it than just simple, oh yes, I want money, I want this, I want that. You want security, you want all sorts of things. We're going to ask you to think about that today in your tutes. And then you won't have time to look at this so much, but have any of you looked at the Seligman stuff, the authentic happiness? Anyone got onto that yet? What do you think of it? What do you think of it there? This is a psychologist, and let me tell you, he's one of the top psychologists in the world. We've actually used a lot of his ideas in our own research, and I think he's fantastic. But he's a leader in the field in authentic happiness and so-called positive psychology. Anyone doing psychology here? Okay, have you heard of this bloke? Oh, you have. Thank God for that. So psychology is taught well here. Okay. Seligman is taking away psychology from looking at the weirdos and the nutcases and the problems to looking at the positive side. Great stuff. So he's got a lot to tell us about integrated human studies. And the thing I like about Seligman is that not only is he a theorist, but he can apply some of his thinking into practice. He has some pretty good handles on human well-being. So that's why we've suggested you have a good look at him. And there's a video there as well. Okay, so that more or less covers the needs, wants and desires. And in the tutes, we want you to be getting really stuck into the idea of asking yourselves, and I think I asked the question, I better read it out because I've forgotten it. Consider the 3 to 5 personal wants, needs or desires. And again, don't be too embarrassed. You might not say some of the things because you would be embarrassed, but you know, within the framework of not getting yourself too caught up, you try and really think what you need, want and desire and share it. But then the other part is to take it in a completely different direction. Our community has needs. I talked to the other class, Human Action for World Futures, and we started to get in the idea, I need to live in a quarter-acre block, and I do. Sorry, I have a quarter-acre block, I do not need it. I'm not sure I even want it, and I certainly don't desire it. But I've got the damn thing. Historically, I've got it. Could it be that my need or my want with my quarter-acre, and everyone else has got a quarter-acre that's matching, that is destroying Perth, the urban sprawl? Could it be that our average person living in Perth has wants and desires which are really profligate, they're a waste of money and could be upsetting the Perth environment? So that's the other part of today's tutorial. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Mark wants to talk about something quite different.
Okay. When you're in your groups to do the group task, we mentioned and emphasised a lot the importance of collaboration, and one of the first activities, or one of the first things we asked you to do was to form these groups of 10. And we asked you to form those groups of 10 because we think in those groups you'll develop an association with this particular group of students better than if you're just in a group of 50 or 55. And also hopefully you got a chance to reflect a bit more on the collaborative skills that you're developing, hopefully, and displaying already. Now, excuse me, now some of the marks that you're are being allocated for the course are going to come from your collaboration. Does anybody recall where some of those tasks are that you need to demonstrate those collaboration skills in directly?
You're talking about the collaborative report?
Okay, collaborative report is one way where you describe to the tutors what sort of collaboration you've undertaken during the semester. So yeah, the collaboration report will be one sort of signal to the tutors. I think Neville's mentioned to you as well in the project, there'll be 5% put aside, I think, for collaboration, the degree to which you're contributing to the project.
As opposed to group effort, yeah.
Okay, and basically we've got collaboration in the course because regarded it as an essential sort of skills capacity for you to have. And if you can develop those skills in these smaller groups, there's a better chance that you're going to be able to collaborate more broadly in the community. So what does collaboration look like? Well, in a moment I'm going to hand you out, as I'm talking I'll probably pass those around, a sheet that I'd like you to reflect on. You'll notice that on the bold print on the top of it, I've said that it's for practice only. In other words, the sheet doesn't go...
Mike, is this recording? Which case I can do that.
Okay. These sheets don't go anywhere else other than for your record. I've listed about 10 criteria down there that are attributes that we consider that describe collaborative practices. And we'll probably need a few more over this side as well, like this second row over here. And the first column there is for you to reflect on the collaboration skills and to rate yourself on collaboration skills. The rating scale is from 0 to 3. 0 means that that particular collaborative activity or skill hasn't been demonstrated yet. And there's a 1, 2 or 3 depending on what you think has been the frequency of your collaboration skills. So collaboration there is starting from a very basic, if you don't attend for a start, you haven't got much hope of collaborating with your group. And if you attend, you need to engage a bit more, and so the criteria go on there. What I'd like you to do now is just spend the next 2 or 3 minutes doing a self-assessment for your own benefit. Let's go ahead and do that now.
But these are not going to be collected or used in any way, is that right? Okay. Just to get you thinking about collaboration.
Is anybody missing a sheet?
Probably more than that.
Just that red button, is it? Just that red button there, yep.